Elon Musk is fighting back against SEC. As you know, SEC filed a motion asking a judge to hold Elon Musk in contempt over a couple of tweets that he sent out a couple of weeks ago. And as you guys probably know, I've read the entire complaint and kind of put it all together for you. It really didn't look like it was about the tweets. It's about what happened behind the scenes, and I'll give you a quick update. And I really thought that it really got Elon, but now Elon's attorney submitted the rebuttal, and even though most of it to me looks like kind of a BS, except for this one thing, and I'll tell you what it is, that I think is actually going to get him off this time. So as this document wasn't any shorter, yet I still went over this. I will give you some quotes and screenshots from it. I'll tell you what I think is not really good argument, as I call it BS, but I'll tell you all about the one that's really, if it's true, it's definitely probably the best defense he has. All right, let's get it going. Coming up next. Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric. Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. Go ahead and click on that subscribe button so you don't miss any of that moving forward, and of course become a part of this amazing community. All right, so as you know, Elon and the SEC didn't really get along after his 420 tweet that they basically accused him of saying that you knew that you couldn't take the company private, you didn't have enough information, you put it out there, broke a bunch of rules, and also your stock moved up and down because of that. Elon didn't really want to settle, but once they really tried to push him and filed a motion, they ended up settling it. Then he went on 60 Minutes, and I believe in December, and pooped on them a little bit. Basically, told everybody he's probably not going to follow the rules. Maybe they'll make some mistakes, and he also told everybody he doesn't really respect SEC, though he does respect the law and the regulations. And but recently, the settlement has been all right. Everybody forgot about it, but a few weeks ago, Elon tweeted out this. He basically said that Tesla will be making 5,000 cars in 2019, and then a few hours later, he tweeted saying, "Oops, I meant to say something a little bit different, that it's really not going to be 500,000 in 2019, is that by the end, the rate would be at 500,000, I'm not reading it right, cars per year rate." So it wasn't just going to be the amount, it's going to be a rate. So we are talking about 500,000. Now, SEC behind the scenes sent him an email and said, "Hey, listen guys, did this go through the approval process?" And they said no. It did not go approval process, the first one, but the second one did, and we corrected it. It was after hours, both of them, so it didn't really affect the stock. But SEC said, yeah, here's the thing. We told you to set up the rules for Elon to tweet. You did set up the rules. It said that, anytime he retweets or tweets about something that was a public knowledge, for more than 2 days, he still has to seek the approval. And the last time he was mentioning anything about 500,000 cars a year production was more than 2 days before that. Therefore, he violated the rule. And so they're asking the judge to hold him in contempt. So that's the background. Now, let me tell you what has now happened. So now judge gave Elon until I believe it was yesterday to file the response why he shouldn't be held in contempt. And this is what we're going to talk about right now. Now, first of all, let me just give you this one quote, because this is a screenshot of the email that SEC, I guess, sent them. Basically, I mean, they're just being dicks to each other, if you will. Like, they basically email them on Sunday. As you can see, February 24th is Sunday, and ask him to reply before 5 p.m. on the same day, to which the attorney replies, "Hey, listen, it's Sunday. I'm flying out right now, and no one's in the office. Let's do it tomorrow. We'll definitely give you a reply tomorrow." And I guess SEC just moved forward, filing the motion. So, and you can see they're taking shots at each other. Obviously, the very first one was, I would say, go back to December in that 60-minute interview, which again wasn't very smart of Elon to say. But okay, now let's get into this, and I'll give you a bunch of quotes from their rebuttal from Elon Musk's attorneys that I find, again, I'm not an attorney or in any kind of a legal mind, but I kind of call BS on all of them, but except for the last one. The last one, I'll tell you, I think that just I think that wipes everything out, and I think that's what's gonna get Elon out of all of this trouble. Before that, of course, I want to remind you guys that this video and this channel is sponsored by Accelerate Auto, amazing service for electric car owners. The extended service contracts up to 125,000 miles, only $100 deductible, and the exclusive discount code specifically for our community. It's in the description of this video. Unfortunately, that's not for sale in California, but their business leases for all of electric cars, including Tesla Model 3, which is the only way to, I guess, lease a Model 3 right now, are available. So check them out in the description of this video. All right, so let's move on to a few quotes from this filing. All right, so and this is kind of in a random order, but what they're saying is basically that Elon, complied with the order, and let me just read it. He has diligently attempted to comply with the order. Since entry of the order, Musk has dramatically reduced the volume of tweets generally, and regarding Tesla in particular. The self-censorship is reflective of his commitment to adhere to the order, so forth and so forth. So basically they're saying, listen, he's really been trying to comply to the order because he doesn't tweet as much. Okay, so the reason I call BS on this one is because it doesn't matter how often he tweets. It's about what he tweets, right? And he can't just violate the law, the agreement less. He just has to not do it at all. So it doesn't really matter the frequency. But also, if you ask me, in his interview with 60 Minutes, he kind of gave everybody indication he's really not going to comply. Like the way he just phrased it, that he wasn't going to comply. So I'm not really sure if this is a good argument. And listen, if you disagree with me, by all means, I'll definitely looking forward to your comments in the description of this video. All right, so the next one is they're basically saying that by going after Musk, SEC is essentially violating his First Amendment rights. It says the SEC seeks to rewrite the order to eliminate Musk's discretion, effectively requiring Musk to seek pre-approval of any tweet that relates to Tesla, regardless of its significance, prior dissemination, or nature. Such a broad prior restraint would violate the First Amendment. Well, actually, well, okay, again, not a First Amendment attorney here, but it looks like that's what they agreed to. If they felt that they was violating First Amendment, they should have said so in the first place, because essentially, again, just to dumb it up for people like me, even from what I understand, the whole order was like, listen, every time you're going to tweet about Tesla where investors might take that information and decide to buy or sell stock at a certain price, you have to have it pre-approved. Basically, that's just to dumb it up. So the fact that you don't like it now and you think it goes against the First Amendment, you should have said that before you agreed to the order. So that's, I think, also not the best of the arguments. All right, let's move on. Now they're saying the SEC has not cited and counsel has not identified any prior case in the last decade where the SEC has sought a contempt order to enforce the type of injunction at issue here. The case should not be the first. Now, essentially what they're saying here is that, hey guys, in the last 10 years, you haven't gone after anybody like this. So why are you going after us? Again, I don't think that's a good argument. Elon is the first in many different, areas of this universe. A lot of times it's a good thing. A lot of times it's a bad thing. This is one of those things that he's going to be the first one after which, after whom the SEC is going to go with this type of action. And by the way, he's definitely the first one to call him out like this and tell him that he does not have any respect for them on national television like this. So listen, there's always a first, and it looks like Elon Musk is a good fit here. So again, not a reasonable argument if you ask me. All right, the next one is basically they're talking about this, and a lot of you guys, a lot of Tesla fans, this was their number one argument. They're saying, listen, what Elon did not move the stock much at all, and because it was after hours, both tweets were after hours, so really there was no they didn't move the stock. But when the news came out of SEC filing for this motion, the stock dropped 3.4%. Now I think there are two fallacies here, and the first one, you guys have seen the videos, right, where a cop pulls somebody over for a minor traffic violation and then someone else smashes into that car and everyone's hurt and everything, and the argument could be, well, you shouldn't really go after people, for speeding or, having their head, taillights out, for such a small violation, because once you pull them over, it's possible that a bigger accident would happen. No, I mean, we have to enforce the law, and, yes, the consequences of it sometimes are unfortunate, but it doesn't mean that people should not enforce the law and file, cases and make sure that the judge decides them. So no, that's not really a good argument that, well, the stock didn't really do anything. Well, the reason it didn't happen was because it was after hours. But this agreement was not about what happens before, after hours, and so forth. It was about 24/7. And listen, they're saying that it was violated. Again, I just want to make sure that you guys know, SEC is not saying anything particular about those two tweets. They're just basically saying that the first tweet should have never gone out without pre-approval, even if it was about something that was a public knowledge, because last time it was a public knowledge is more than 2 days ago, and per the guidelines that Tesla itself created for Musk, that was the time period after which he had to seek pre-approval again, and he didn't. All right, but we'll get back to that in the end of this journey. All right, so one last one that I still call BS on before we get to the juicy stuff. It's this one, and they're basically saying that overall this tweet was taken out of context, because overall there were other tweets on the same day earlier saying how Tesla has been flourishing as a company. It's amazing what they've done. And this tweet was basically saying a celebration of the accomplishment of the company and kind of a looking forward statement. And therefore, because of that context, this one tweet should not be taken out and interpreted separately. Well, I also think that's not really a good argument, because investors can take anything out of this, and basically if the CEO says this is how many cars we're making, celebrating or not celebrating, reminiscing or not reminiscing, if you're saying that that's what's going to happen, you will take him for his word. And most importantly, don't forget, I think this is where kind of Elon shot himself in the foot here, because his second tweet, which is this one, kind of admits that he made a mistake by calling it that they're going to make 500,000 cars for the entire year. So I bet that if he didn't send the second tweet, which I guess he had to, he wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been looked at as a mistake, maybe, because he didn't admit to it, but he did. See, he did. All right, now let's get to the quote that I think is going to save the day for him, period. Now, they're saying the policy also, oh, by the way, there's just a bunch of other things that they're talking about, like some technicalities and other cases and what SEC can and cannot do and stuff like that. And I definitely it's way over my head and probably yours, unless you're like an attorney. And if you are, then you can obviously probably do even a better job than I can reading this document. But so I don't know if there are any technicalities they can catch each other on. But I was just telling you, just if as a common sense person, reading this overall sort of battle between the two, this is my analysis. Okay, so now the juicy details. The policy has also provided that if Musk plans to publish a communication that contains or reasonably could contain material information more than 2 days after that communication was pre-approved, Musk must reconfirm the pre-approval. The policy does not contain any requirements to obtain a second pre-approval after the information in question has been publicly disseminated. Hashtag ESL. All right, so and this is what this is all about. Just like I told you, this is about whether or not the information that was made public. I believe it was an earnings call and the earnings paperwork that they filed that day. It was a while back, and even though that was public information, it was more than 2 days, and therefore Musk should have, been seeking the pre-approval, which he did not. But here is where the whole thing blows up. It looks like Tesla has filed this form. It says 10K for 2018 with all of that information, right? And it looks like it's also they're talking about there's 500,000 Model 3 vehicles that they're, at the rate that they're going to be producing and so forth. And it does look like if they filed it the same day, as you can see, February 19th, if they filed it the same day as Musk sent out that tweet, then you can easily make an argument that, hey, obviously that information was approved, it was made public, Elon basically retweeted essentially what it says here, so therefore he did not needed to seek the pre-approval. And I think they have a case here. The only thing, of course, is that, and I'm going to make it full screen, as you can see, they're still talking about the rate here, right? And not how many cars they're actually going to make per year. And because Elon corrected himself, right? He was correcting the annual production amount with the weekly or monthly rate, and that was a mistake. That still might get him in trouble. But if anything that can get him out of trouble, I think it would be this, and maybe some other technicalities about, how far SEC could be reaching, and are they really picking out, what the intent was, and all of that stuff. Exactly. It's impossible to say, obviously, what judge is going to say. But I think this might actually get him off. All right, so let's really quickly, of course, kind of summarize everything. Well, not really even summarize. Let's talk about what the positives and negatives are. Now, yes, that's right. Forgot about that, because even though I created that. So the positives here, and there are quite a few of them. I think the positives are here that I hope. Listen, we all know that Elon has tweeted a bunch of stuff that he shouldn't have. I think even the biggest Tesla fanboys have already gone on record saying, listen, you shouldn't have done this, from the pedophile comments to 420 comments to quite a few other things. In some cases, he had to admit that he made mistakes. In some cases, he didn't. But overall, it looks like, a second pair of eyes would help before he tweets. I mean, it's not even that much to ask, right? So the whole point is to do that. I think that even if he wins this case, this motion will be denied, I think overall he will be even more careful, and really maybe 100%, where whenever he does talk about Tesla in terms of what investors can interpret as something that needs to trigger their action, he will just literally just run it by his attorneys. Like, hey, dude, like, I'm gonna send this message. Is that cool? Like, it just takes that, and I think that's good for everybody. It's good for him. It's good for Tesla. It's good for investors and good for customers. So I just don't see how this is bad. So if this case, even if dismissed, going to force him to do that, I look at it as a positive, of course. Now, on the negative side, it's once again, many people will look at it as, Elon is being defiant from, the very organization that's trying to protect the investors. He's being this big corporate, a-hole, and fighting them. He didn't want to settle in the first place, even though he knows he made a mistake. He misled investors and all of that stuff. And he thinks he can do everything, anything he wants because he's Elon Musk. Just this whole conversation, the fact that we're talking about this and not about, I don't know, 5 other amazing things that are happening to Tesla right now, that just the negative narrative that continues to go on and on and on. And we, you can say, well, Alex, you're talking about it. It's like, yes, but I gotta deliver news to you guys, and he needs to stop giving me the news to deliver that are negative and let me concentrate on a $35,000 Model 3 and a Model Y unveiling and a Tesla Supercharger V3 and all of that stuff, and not let me talk about this because it's happening, right? And I know a lot of you also get on my, okay, saying, Alex, you've been so negative about Elon. I'm not being anything but realistic and telling you what the story is. As a matter of fact, that's the reason I started this positive and negative segment, so you guys know that I try to look at both sides, deliver information, and you can decide for yourself. I'm not forcing this on anyone. So I really wish that once this matter is settled, that we can finally move on, he can finally move on, and I think that's going to be good for everybody. All right, so by the way, a quick shout out to one of my newer Patreons, Brandon Reed. Thank you so much for contributing and supporting my show, just like the rest of you Patreons. Thank you guys for that. That's the only place where you can watch me live, and if you want to contribute and get those perks, go ahead and go into the description of this video. There's a link there. It's simply patreon.com/E4Electric. So thank you, all of you guys who are going to do that. I really do appreciate it. All right, looking forward to your opinion. I know this story is not over, so I'll definitely keep my eye on it, and I will continue reporting on the story. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.